the Modern Workplace Licensing Bootcamp. I am going to start off with some housekeeping just while the remainder of the attendees filter in. So if you could keep yourselves on mute, ideally, through the session, there will be an opportunity to do a bit of Q&A at the end. The session will be recorded, and that started from now. We'll also send a copy of the slide deck with PDF and any links kind of mentioned afterwards as well. So you can reference anything that you're interested in from the session afterwards. There's also going to be a poll that will pop up at some point through the session. So if you could give us some feedback and any information requested on that, we'd be really grateful. And with that, I think we're safe to kick off now. So my name's Chloe Chapman. I'm a commercial executive working at Bytes, and I'll be taking you through the modern workplace section of today's bootcamp. So here's an overview of everything I'm aiming to cover for you today, hopefully in enough detail to give you a good overview of the licensing structure. But if you'd like to take a deeper dive into any of these topics, we can get a call set up to look at your scenario in more specific detail on a one-to-one basis. Microsoft's vision for the modern workplace is one where all employees can effectively and securely collaborate with each other, so that we're able to all do our best work from anywhere while making well-being something that isn't just an afterthought. The products that we're looking into today address some of the challenges we have with successful remote working. As we kick things off, I wanted to give you a very brief overview of the plans, and I appreciate this might make me public enemy number one, but just so that everyone knows and is clear on the plans that I'm referencing throughout the products, so that you kind of get the most out of the session. So Office 365 is a cloud services platform that offers the familiar products like Word, Excel, PowerPoint and OneDrive. This is expanded to include collaboration applications like Teams, SharePoint Online, and Yammer, as well as a number of other tools and features depending on the plan that you've purchased. Microsoft 365 or M365 is an all-in-one bundle that includes Office 365, but also Windows and Enterprise Mobility and Security. This plan provides a complete integrated service in one user subscription. I've included an example here of how this looks all together using an image of the most well-known M365 plan E3. Through most of the session today, I'll be referencing probably mainly the Office 365 side of the diagram in red, since a lot of the products are mostly included here in part or require it as a prerequisite in some capacity. There are some M365 plans to cover two levels of enterprise user, E3 and E5. M365 plans aimed at first-line workers, so F1, F3 and F5 security and compliance add-ons. And there are a lot of plans here and ways to buy them in their component parts too. This allows for businesses to adopt the cloud service model step by step. Some of the cloud products and services are available individually as well, but for today's purposes, we're looking at a high-level overview of the main plans. You can see on the second row, there's also a set of plans named M365 Business, which are aimed at offering small and mid-sized organizations a set of products and features that are suitable and more accessible at a lower price point than the enterprise plans. There are some extensive comparison documents, which you can see a snapshot of some of those below, which make really useful reference points when you're considering how to profile your users in more detail. But for now, let's just cover some of the key differences to be aware of with the frontline worker and business plans. Another extremely useful website that's updated regularly, and a good visual reference point, which I've probably stolen a few images from today. It will help you understand how different plans are put together and their component parts, and it's on m365maps.com. I'll include that link on the slide handout that comes out afterwards. So the frontline worker plans are there to cater for users that don't sit at a laptop or PC full-time as an office worker might, but still require some of the online services. There are 3 plans for frontline workers, excluding add-ons like F5 security, Office 365 F3, M365 F1 and F3. An organisation would choose an F1 license for a user who needs very limited functionality, for example, read-only access to documents and no email rights. Although you can add an Exchange Online Plan 1 license if email is required for a user that only needs view-only access to the documents. F3, on the other hand, is a good level of access to Exchange and SharePoint Online and includes EMS E3 and also Windows 10 Enterprise, which is not included in F1. The main thing to remember and take away about F plans are the assignment rules. So if a user's primary work device is dedicated to them, it must have a single screen smaller than 10.1 inches. However, if they share their primary work device with other frontline workers, this restriction is removed, as long as the other frontline workers use this as their primary device as well. As you can see, other than the restrictions we've discussed, M365 F3 looks very similar to the products we saw in E3, and this is so that these users can still benefit from the security and management functionality offered to enterprise customers, but without paying for unnecessary features that they won't use. M365 plans with the word business are generally aimed at the small and medium businesses, since they're each limited to 300 users. For this reason, they aren't available in EA, and they're aimed at EAs are aimed at companies over 500 users. If a company just needs their users to access browser-based apps with online services like Exchange Online or Teams, they may consider Business Basic, but if they want to be able to install the Office apps, then they would choose Business Standard. M365 Business Premium follows the familiar structure we've seen across the other plans, adding on security tools and services, including Intune, as well as Windows 10 Business. We'll leave that there for today on the plans, as it's not a one-size-fits-all topic, but we can look at this in further detail, as I mentioned earlier on in the call, on a one-to-one basis. So if you would like to book in a call to go in further depth with that, we can. But I'm afraid if we just spend too long talking about plans, then we might put everyone to sleep after their lunch. So with that, let's move on to Teams and audio services. Our reliance on technology to collaborate as a remote workforce has obviously spiked over the past few years, and Teams has evolved to offer this with a secure integrated workspace. The Teams license includes chat with other members of your organisation and can also include chat to Teams users of other organisations. Teams includes meetings with up to 300 attendees and Teams live events, which can be streamed to up to 10,000 attendees, which would not require a license for the attendees, but the organisers would need to be licensed with either Office 365, E1, E3 or E5, or M365, E3 or E5. So essentially it's aimed at enterprise customers, or enterprise users rather, to present and organise these live events rather than, for example, a frontline worker. At the end of last year, we also saw Microsoft introduce Teams Essentials, which is aimed at small businesses providing unlimited group meetings for up to 300 users, in line with other small business offerings, such as M365 Business Basic Standard and Premium, as we've just looked at. Up until this month, audio conferencing was offered as a separate paid-for add-on product to Teams or part of an E5 plan, and its purpose was to allow people to join Teams meetings with a traditional telephone. An audio conferencing license would have been purchased to allow users to do three things. One, to be able to send out a meeting request with a dial-in number. Two, to include a toll-free dial-in number to their meeting request. And three, to dial out during a meeting and invite other callers in. Where an organizer wants to provide a toll-free number in a meeting request, this would have been paid for by communications credits. As of this month, unlimited dial-in is now included as part of Teams. The next element to discuss as part of this slide is the phone system license, which has recently been renamed to Teams Phone. And it's a user subscription license that can be added on to the licenses shown on the list on the right to provide a Microsoft Cloud PBX for organizations that want to eliminate their hardware-based phone system. New and existing phone numbers can be assigned to users via the Teams Admin Center, and you'd need the Teams Service Admin role to manage this. Calling plans enable users to call phone numbers outside their organization, and there are domestic and international calling plans available, so you can choose in-country only, or international provides an additional 196 or so geographies to this. You can use Teams Phone with a third-party telecoms provider. Otherwise, these plans will provide you with your calling minutes. The number of calling minutes available and actually some of the calling plan options do vary by geography and also by what program you buy them through. There's an option to include a calling plan with the purchase of your Teams Phone license as well. But this slide just kind of gives you a general idea of the calling plans available overall and how they're structured. It's important to be aware that audio conferencing, phone systems and calling plans are not available in every region. This is a site where you can check availability prior to investing into a solution, which I've linked on the slide. Dialing out to premium numbers and those not included in a set list of countries, which is called a Zone A list, is paid for by communications credits. 60 minutes per user per month of these are included in E5 licenses, but they can also be purchased separately in the M365 Admin Center. A point to note is communications credits must be used within 12 months of purchase, otherwise they are lost. So budgeting for those is quite important. Another product within this stack to mention is Advanced Communications. So it's a collection of additional functionality for organizations that want to tailor and customize their meetings and need tools to manage their communication policies. It's an in-cloud add-on user subscription license for users already licensed with Teams with one of the enterprise, frontline worker or business plans. Auto attendance and call queues require an associated resource account, and all resource accounts that require a phone number must be assigned a Teams Phone license. There is a more cost-effective way to cover this though, as once an organisation has at least one paid-for Teams Phone license, they're entitled to 25 free virtual user licenses. Then every 10 paid-for Teams Phone licenses also entitle you to one additional free virtual user license. Although these entitlements are free of charge, they must still be purchased and assigned via the M365 Admin Center in the same way that you would manage a paid Teams Phone license. Another scenario for the use of Teams is for use on a device which is shared by multiple users without logging in with their own Office 365 credentials. There are two different license types for this. there's a common area phone device license, which is assigned to a team's phone in an area such as a lobby, where guests can make or receive phone calls. Licensing the device means that any user is covered to make calls. However, it does not include calling service, so you would either connect this to your existing telephony provider or purchase a calling plan for the device as well. Teams rooms come in standard and premium options, as you can see here on the left, and they cover meetings and calling functionality for meeting room devices. Both also include Intune for deployment and management, and the difference with the premium license is that it includes managed services for the product where it's geographically available. I've added this slide in quickly to address some more changes in this product area, and this is to a license called Microsoft Business Voice. This was launched as a solution intended for SMB customers, restricted to a maximum of 300 seats, as you can see in other business plans, and it includes audio conferencing, phone system, and a calling plan, or available as an option without one, and it's exclusive to CSP customers. As new plans have been added and names have been changed, for simplification of the options available in audio services, this is being phased out over the next 12 to 18 months, and Teams Phone with calling plan or without, whatever suits you better, will be the recommended license moving forwards. If you are using Business Voice, you still have the option to continue using this, and you can renew your subscription up until the end of June. So now we're going to take a look at Microsoft Viva, the employee experience and collaboration platform. Microsoft Teams is the only solution with meetings, calls, chat, content collaboration, and business process workflows, all in a secure, integrated user experience. Viva was then developed because Microsoft recognized that they needed to do more to empower people to feel connected, supported, and able to bring their best selves to work. Available in Viva today, there are 4 different modules: Connections, Insights, Topics, and Learning. You can buy all 4 of these together in a Viva user subscription license for just over £9 per user per month, or 25% less while it's on promo, or you can buy them as individual modules with the exception of Connections. So I will run through these separately and how they're all licensed and the differences between those now. The prerequisite of the suite license is met by most M365 and Office 365 plans, including the business plans, frontline worker, and academic plans, as you can see listed at the top of the slide. Viva Insights is probably the product you'll be most familiar with in this set, as it was formerly workplace analytics and offers data-driven recommendations around looking after your well-being, boosting your productivity. Also, any user of an M365 plan with Exchange Online may have already seen the version of Insights included as part of their license appear in their Teams menu. With the Insights features included in an M365 plan with Exchange Online, you get personal recommendations to help you build better working habits, such as practicing mindfulness, taking regular breaks, and scheduling focus time. You also get daily briefing and monthly digest emails, a personal insights dashboard, and AI-powered Outlook suggestions around email delivery in office hours and scheduling meetings which allow attendees breaks so they aren't booked back to back. So you can see how these would be useful to avoid burnout, because I'm sure that happens to all of us. The paid user license adds to this insights for managers and senior business leaders for team level and organization level working habits to identify and prevent burnout and stress and drive more effective and agile working culture. It also provides the ability to generate custom insights and use Power BI report templates to make data-driven decisions across common business scenarios. Each user license includes 1 capacity unit per user per month, which is pooled at tenant level. We're going to take a look at understanding capacity units in a little bit more depth on the next slide, but they're required to extend the capabilities of Viva Insights, combining M365 data with external data, such as that from CRM and surveys. One thing to note on the credits with the user licenses, any unused Viva Insights license credits expire monthly on the anniversary date for the subscription. So let's have a look at how the capacity is licensed and what this adds. The capacity-based features, as I mentioned, can be based on templates or fully customized by a data analyst, and provide visuals of things like the impact of business transformation projects, granular collaboration patterns across different geographies or areas of the business, as well as between managers and their direct reports. The additional capacity allows you to include data from a wider range of sources, and the annual subscription license gives you 5,000 units of credit to use against queries and reports. The way that these are used is actually quite complex, of course, and the number of units a query consumes is based on a number of factors. 1, the number of measured employees included in the query. 2, the number of weeks of data included in the output. 3, the number of metrics used. And 4, the type of metrics used. Different metrics fall into different price tiers and have different associated costs. To give you an idea of how these are converted into a unit calculation, I've included a breakdown of the formula on the left here and an idea of how the tiers are priced. If you're using multiple metrics in one query that fall into different price tiers, for example, one from tier 1 and one from tier 2, you would add them up separately using the formula, and then you would add them together at the end to get the total query cost. As I'm sure you'll be pleased to hear, the Query Designer tool does provide an estimate of the cost for you, but it's useful to understand where all of these figures are pulled from, and also, obviously, prior to investing in the capacity add-on license, you want to know roughly how many of those you're going to use. Viva Connections is a curated and personalized feed building on the capabilities of SharePoint, Yammer, and Teams to bring relevant news, conversations, and resources into one place to help create an inclusive environment. Viva Connections is currently available to all Microsoft 365 or Office 365 Enterprise Plan users without requiring a separate license. There's not currently a separate license available for this product, since it's drawing on the features of the licenses included in these plans, bringing them to a custom feed in Teams. This may change in future, though, if more features are added. Viva Topics uses AI to automatically search for and identify topics in your organization. It compiles information about them, such as a short description, people working on the topic, and sites, files, and pages that are related to it. Here you can see how a topic card is presented on either a mobile or a desktop app. The exact wording from Microsoft on the requirements for licensing topics is: a license is required for anyone viewing, accessing, or curating topic cards, topic pages, topic centers, or otherwise benefiting from Viva Topics capabilities. In other words, unlike the other modules, any user interacting with the topics features in any capacity requires either the topics user license or the full Viva Suite user license. Viva Learning is a centralized learning hub in Microsoft Teams that lets you seamlessly integrate learning and building skills into your day. In Viva Learning, users can discover, share, and recommend courses from Microsoft and other content providers. A light version of Viva Learning is available in M365 and Office 365, similarly to Insights. This includes Microsoft's own course content for the users to browse and complete. A license is required for anyone who wants to access partner content and learning management systems, or recommend content and track completion progress. The prerequisites for this are again listed at the bottom of the slide at the right. And finally, I wanted to let you know about the option to buy Viva with a Glint add-on, for which there's currently an introductory offer running. Glint is the employee experience platform acquired by LinkedIn, and integrated with Viva, it provides the element of employee engagement to complete a more holistic view of the employee experience and how people are feeling about the way they're working, not just about how they work. It's increasingly important to consider how we gain feedback, since we can't notice so easily while remote working that Sandra's on her 12th coffee of the morning and looks unhappy, and her notice could land on your desk before her next quarterly review is booked. Employee wellbeing retention means that we don't need to wait until our top employees all leave before we identify and resolve problems that could have been prevented in the first place. Glint provides that insight to Viva. And the prerequisites for this user subscription license are again at the bottom of the slide, and the benefits of integrating Glint with Viva include the surveys and the industry-leading analytics that you can see details for on the left here. With the release of Windows 365, we have multiple ways we can deliver desktops to users as an alternative to installing applications directly to their devices. Adding to that, Windows Virtual Desktop, renaming to Azure Virtual Desktop not all that long ago, and with both of these being desktops hosted in Azure, I thought it would be useful to run through some of the licensing differences between these two products. First, let's start by looking at them side by side in comparison. So Windows 365 is a fully managed desktop as a service solution, whereby you don't need to be concerned with the management of any of the underlying infrastructure other than the virtual network for the enterprise version. It offers a predictable monthly cost per user, and the storage and compute specifications can be scaled easily depending on the needs of the user. There are individual cloud PC specs to choose from, which range from entry-level ones aimed at frontline workers to top-of-the-range high-performance cloud PCs for developers and content creators. There's a full guide available to help you choose which one's right for you, complete with scenarios, apps, and job roles. So I will include a link to this on the deck that comes out following the presentation. Azure Virtual Desktop allows organizations more control over the underlying infrastructure and the virtual machines. Storage, networking costs are paid for on a consumption basis through your Azure subscription, in addition to the user access rights to the desktop operating system and applications. There's also the option with Azure Virtual Desktop, or AVD, to choose Windows Client or Windows Server Desktop in the same way that you would on an on-premises VDI. Including the one I just mentioned, there are some differences in the prerequisites between business and enterprise versions of Windows 365. As the name would suggest, the business version is aimed at smaller businesses and individuals, so carries the 300 user quantity cap. With this version, you do not need to set up a virtual network, and the bandwidth of the outbound data is based on the RAM of the cloud PC you've subscribed to. There aren't any license prerequisites for business either, but features such as device management can be used with it if the user's device with Microsoft endpoint management such as Intune or Configuration Manager. For users already licensed with Windows 10 or 11 Pro on their primary work device, they're eligible for discounted pricing, which is known as the, and this is a tongue twister, Windows 365 Business with Windows Hybrid Benefit License Assignment Eligibility. Windows 365 Enterprise is aimed at larger organizations with the expectation that they will have likely already invested in the solutions to that effect. So in addition to the Azure Virtual Network required, they will also need each user to be licensed as a prerequisite with Windows 10 or 11 Enterprise, Intune, and Azure Active Directory Plan 1 or Plan 2. Looking back over now to Azure Virtual Desktop to cover the licensing in a little bit more depth. The Azure infrastructure element of this solution is charged on a consumption basis in the same way that it would be if you were using public cloud-based infrastructure for other purposes. So you can commit to reserved instances for AVD, and this will give you reduced costs. Then there are the user access rights to consider on the right. So this will depend on whether it's a client or a server desktop scenario. Also, something useful to note, for anyone in the process of upgrading from Windows 7, you can get virtual desktops with free extended security updates until January 2023 in Azure Virtual Desktop. And lastly, Intune has really changed the landscape of the modern workplace. So although it's technically part of the Enterprise Mobility and Security Plan, with security being covered in depth in another session today, I wanted to include it in the modern workplace overview. Microsoft Intune is the cloud-based service focusing on mobile device management and mobile application management. It's not a replacement for Microsoft Endpoint Configuration Manager, unless you decide on 100% cloud solution. And that's formerly System Center Configuration Manager. They can still be used either independently of each other or both in conjunction with each other. And this would be known as co-management, which just gives you more management options if you've got a hybrid infrastructure. With Intune, you can set rules and configure settings, deploy apps on both personal and organization-owned devices, including mobile, to access data and networks. On personal devices, it allows you to keep corporate data safe and isolate it from personal data. As I mentioned, it's included in most M365 plans today, so that's E3, E5, and the frontline worker plans M365 F1 and F3, and also M365 Business Premium. These are all user licenses, since they're in user-based plans. However, you can buy Intune as a standalone user or device license. Device licenses are used in scenarios such as those on shared devices, and a device license is included, for example, in the Teams Rooms plans that we looked at earlier on in the session. Okay, so this brings us to the end of our session today. So if you do have any kind of brief questions, if you do have any longer, kind of more specific questions to your personal scenario, I'm happy to kind of look at those on a one-to-one basis and book in a call with you personally. We will be sending out the recording and the slides for those of you that have joined kind of halfway through. I appreciate it's kind of difficult timing for everyone. But if anyone wants to kind of pop anything into the chat, I will take a look at your questions now. Anything that I can answer kind of off the bat, I will. Otherwise, we can connect, and we do have various workshops and one-to-one sessions that we can run to kind of make sure that we're giving you the best advice for your personal situation. There's a poll that should be coming out just now. So as I mentioned at the beginning, if you can fill that out, I'd be really appreciative. And thank you very much, everyone, for attending. And if there's no questions immediately, then I wish you all the best for the rest of your afternoon.